we are just jumping straight to the culture hack methodology. And in this case, we are going to start with the point of view, the first process of culture hack, which is asking why we are here and asking where do we want to go. So I I just want to quickly remind that there was a case study that we shared in the first session of the open sessions, and we also shared a documentary that I hope you have watched. But if you didn't, you still can watch it after this session. But the important thing to remind about this case study is that it was a long struggle that the peoples of the lake of Texcoco were doing to fight against a mega project that wanted to build an airport on top of a sacred lake. And at some point of those 22 years of struggle, we shared the culture hack methodology with this movement and all the organizations that were working with them to hack a consultation that was asking, do you want an airport here or an airport there, right? And the important thing to remind about this specific case study was that there was a very big coalition of organizations, of peoples, of very different of very different natures. Some of them were NGOs, some of them were collectives, some of them were rooted movements from peasants in that region, right? So what we started to do just before starting any communication or any hack or anything on the ground was actually starting an internal consultation where we could hear in the middle of this very noisy conversation about the airport the voice of the territory. And how could the communities tell their own story in the middle of this big noise of the conversation around the new government and the building of an airport? So we started with this question of how can we open a third option in the consultation, at least a narrative option. And you will see with the direct specifications of this exercise that Tiffany will give to you. But basically, we answered 4 questions, right? Which is basically the point of view. The question of who are you? And we were a coalition of 22 organizations, activists, land defenders, and communities from the Lake of Texcoco region, united in denouncing the construction of a new international airport. Then what is the motivation for this project, for this hack, right? So we see that the official airport consultation ignored the voices of local communities who live in deep relational connection with the territory. Instead, the consultation prioritized extractive, profit-driven interests that treat the land as a commodity, reinforcing neoliberal logic and development, and under the illusion of community choice, right? So that's what motivates the hack that we did. So we answered the question of what is the desired outcome of your narrative intervention. So after seeing what's happening with the conversation, we want to hack that airport conversation to reveal that the lake as a living ecosystem and cultural memory matters more than economic growth. And finally, we answered the question of what must do you do to achieve this goal, right? The outcome of your hack. And to do this, we must intervene in the upcoming consultation too. Number 1, amplify the voices and struggles of Texcoco communities, reaching people in the city and beyond, right? Not only the lake, but also the adjacent mega city that is Mexico City. Then build shared narratives that connect local resistance with a broader public, helping others see what is truly at stake. And finally, to create a third option beyond the airport here in Texcoco or the airport somewhere, but choosing life, choosing the lake. So I will suggest that you come back to this story, But the beautiful part of this long story of 22 years of struggle was that the use of a narrative tool to create this coherence in a moment where they could make a specific change left that after 22 years in 2023, the Atenco communities repatriated the land that was taken by the government, and they created this big ecological reserve that is 41 times the Central Park. So the only thing that I want to remind in this case is this whole story of fighting against capitalism, right? And why the positionality of a point of view is such an important tool to create a culture hack around the specific issue that you are wanting to do. So we are just starting with all of you the first step or the first process of the culture hack method, which is the ask, the creation of a point of view. So in this first part of the culture hack method is to collectively ask the correct questions in order to develop this point of view statement. And it is essentially a statement that outlines the context and the goals of the narrative hack that you want to engage in. And this can be as simple as the one that I just shared, but the Yo Prefiero el Lago, as Tiffany will share, had also a poetic point of view. So it's not only this very straightforward and technical point of view. You can create a poem, you can create a political manifesto. The important thing is that you answer those key questions. So I will pass the voice to Tiffany.
Thanks so much, Fede. And first of all, thanks to all of you. I feel very inspired and there's so much to learn from all of you. And I'm also aware we're on time, so I'm going to zip through this in about 5 minutes. So thank you for staying. And you'll have the slides and you also have the online curriculum that goes through this section called Ask that we sent to you in the email to review before. So don't fret if we're going a bit fast. So yeah, as Fede said, I'm going to go through a little bit more instruction about how you actually create your point of view. As he said, it's about collectively asking the correct questions. And I would say it's kind of like a compass that guides you. So you can always return to it with your collective along your narrative-led systems change intervention. So just a couple of questions to get your head into the narrative-led systems change thinking. Think about what we want to achieve. Obviously, narrative-led systems change is long-term work and community building. You can think about the short, medium term, but also the 2 years, the 10 years, the 50 years, the 100 years. So if you skip through 2 slides, please, Aubrey. We also, in the next slide, we're also wanting to think about, as I said, long-term narrative-led systems change achievements and think about what socioeconomic systems we want to change and usher in. On the next slide. Perfect. And here we also want to think about how we can measure narrative impact. Like, what does impact look like? What does success look like according to you? So now we're going to just jump into the 4 questions that Fede's already gone through with the Yo Prefiero el Lago example on the next slide. So the first question is simply, who are you? It's really about defining who you are, who the project teams are, the positionality, the group of stakeholders. And so it's useful to ask, what are the people working on this project with you? What are their skills, capacities, demographics, etc.? And who are the stakeholders for the project? And then the second question is, what is the motivation? So here, it's really about outlining the important insights into why this project is important to you as a collective. So key insights or facts that drive the desire to change this specific narrative you're focusing on. So think about this as really kind of diagnosing the situation you're in, describing the issues at stake, situating your work in the broader ideologies, narratives, and socioeconomic systems that you're seeing. So questions here, what are the motivations for your project? Why does it matter? What are the important facts? And then the third question on the next slide is about outcomes. What is the desired outcome of your narrative intervention? So this is a bit kind of bigger picture, what we want to change, articulating the outcomes we wish to obtain through this narrative intervention. In other words, what do we want to achieve? What do we want to see shift? How this narrative-led systems change might unfold? And here we start thinking about success metrics and what impact looked like, especially through the lens of social tipping points, which we'll come to in the next sessions. And then the final question is, well, how will your movement create the change that you desire? So this is like, what do we actually practically need to do to achieve this stuff? So this is more in the kind of here and now of this narrative intervention that you're all working on at the moment. And so importantly, what needs to be done to achieve the desired outcomes, and how can we represent the different voices in the room? And on to the next slide. So I won't go through these examples in detail. You can do this in your own time, but it's just to give you a taste of the different kinds of point of views you can develop. Like we've given you the example of quite a technical one that goes through quite clearly the steps of the intervention, but you could also do a poetic one that's more of a kind of artistic, poetic manifesto, or more of a political manifesto. So this one is the Yo prefiero el lago. It's a poetic point of view. And on the next slide, in the Brazilian context, it's a more political point of view. So I would advise you to click onto those and have a little browse to get some inspiration for all the varieties of point of views that you can develop. So 1 minute to go. Importantly, now we give you your homework for the next session, which will be this time in 2 weeks. What we want you to do is write down the point of view for your project. And also reflect on why it's useful to state your positionality when working with narratives. And as I said, you'll have instruction in the online curriculum, and you can watch the recording of this again. You've got a lot of information. So yeah, we're really excited to look through all your POVs in 2 weeks.